Hi friends, my name is Kay Lorraine, and today I'm going to be sharing the books that I read in the month of June. So June was surprisingly a decent reading month for me. It was my first month of grad school, which is pretty intense, and I was afraid that I wouldn't find a lot of time to read, and that ended up being slightly true. So I definitely read less than I normally do, but I still read quite a few books, and I could definitely carve in some reading time into my day-to-day schedule outside of work, study, and school. So that was really nice. But I read a total of 5 things. I read 3 physical books and 2 audiobooks, and I will share those now. So first I have Wanderlost by Jen Malone. This is a YA contemporary that follows a main character who finds herself in kind of a difficult situation where she has to lead a tour of senior citizens through Europe because for reasons that were kind of her fault, her sister can no longer lead that tour, so she takes the identity of her sister, goes on this European tour, and finds a lot of obstacles along the way. And something that I really enjoyed about this book is the exploration of being a nervous traveler or someone who's more of a homebody and just enjoys staying at home. I think that's totally relatable sometimes, and that aspect of the travel was really interesting. There were a few things in this book that I wasn't too fond of, like the pickiness over food, and kind of, I don't know, the way that the main character treated foreign food to her just seemed a little disrespectful culturally, so I wasn't a big fan of that. But overall, this was a really fun book. It had a little romance, it had a little mystery, it had one kind of like shocking little twist at the end, which was really out of nowhere and just really surprised me. But overall, an enjoyable read, and it definitely satiated the wanderlust I have been feeling in June when I couldn't travel or really do anything because school was so much. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I have Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan by Jessica Townsend. This is a middle grade fantasy, and it has some of those dark, whimsical elements that I'm so obsessed with in middle grade. And this was just such a phenomenal read. I originally picked this up in December, and I didn't have time to finish it before I went back to the library, and in June I just really wanted to read it, so I was just like, hey, I'll go grab that, and I am not disappointed. This follows a main character named Morrigan, who was cursed to die on her 12th birthday, I believe, but someone comes in and scoops her up and takes her to this alternate version or part of her world where she is competing to be a part of this really elite club, and she has to find out her place in that world and the mysteries behind why she was going to die, and also the mysteries of if she has something unusual about her that makes her special and deserving of being in this particular club. Like I said, this book is super dark and whimsical. I adored it, and I definitely gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I also read Tomorrow Will Be Different by Sarah McBride. I actually picked this up on recommendation from Emily, and now that I'm thinking of her channel name, it's like completely blanked from my mind. It's just within reach, so I will be sure to link that down below. Totally check her out. She had a great video with recommendations for Pride Month, and this was one of the books she recommended, and I loved it so much. So this is a nonfiction. It's written by Sarah McBride. She is a trans woman, and she has had a lot of advocacy work in the trans community, specifically in Delaware, and this book just kind of explores her experience with advocacy, her experience with falling in love, and there are definitely some really sad pieces to this book. I was sobbing by the time the book was over because it was just so touching and heartbreaking. And honestly, this was just such a well put together and intriguing nonfiction. I found myself wanting to read more. I found myself really wanting to know Sarah's progress, where she was going with the legislation she was supporting. I wanted to know what was going on with this person she was falling in love with, and I was just so intrigued and invested in the way that she wrote this part of her life. It was just really wonderful. Definitely recommend this. I believe I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, though it's kind of hard to rate a nonfiction because it's their life. Can you really rate someone's life? For audiobooks, I picked up Just One Day by Gayle Forman, and this is a book that has been circulating on BookTube for so long now, but I just hadn't read it, and as I mentioned with Wanderlost, I have just been in the mood for some travel books, and that seems to be one of the most popular ones, so I picked it up and I really loved it. It is a YA contemporary. It follows a main character and it starts off in London, and she meets this cute guy and they decide to go to Paris for her very last day in Europe before she heads back to go to college, her freshman year of college. And the book follows that one day, but then it also follows the year, her entire first year of college, and I really enjoyed that. I really liked that there was that exploration, that coming of age, that finding yourself outside of who you were in high school. That was so relevant and relatable, I think, and I really, really loved it. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, I picked up The Cafe by the Sea by Jenny Colgan. I actually picked this up because I always hear Amy over at Amy Reads talking about Jenny Colgan books, and I just saw that it was available on Overdrive and decided to just scoop it up, and I definitely do not regret that. This is an adult contemporary romance, and it follows a main character who finds herself having to move from London back to her hometown, which is a remote island that is off the shore of Scotland, I believe. It's pretty far north. And she has not been back home since her mother died and just has no interest in really being there, but she has to for work. And it just kind of follows that narrative and her just finding her place in that world again with her family, with someone she's interested in romantically. Not her family. I hope that didn't sound like I meant that. This is not an incest book. But it's really good. It was so cute. I loved it so much. And it really, even though the main character was going home, to me, it felt like a little piece of travel literature. And it, again, just kind of like satiated that desire to just feel like I was on a trip. And this book really transported me. The atmosphere was so beautiful in this book. And I think that the characters were really nice as well. And there's a really cute literary dog in there, and that's always, you know, you always get brownie points for that. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Anyway, that has been it for today's video. I will leave links in the down bar below for all of my information, as well as those 2 lovely booktubers that I mentioned, and y'all should totally check those out. As always, thank you so much for watching. Stay weird.